Hello, all Hoosier fans, Hoosier haters, and everyone in between. This is the Crimson Coliseum podcast, and on today's episode, Indiana got its first win of the season and is starting 1-0 after beating Florida International 31 to 7. And this game, it was a good first game, not a great one, but you'll get what you can take there. You take what you can get there. 31 to 7, good for a first game. The Signetti era starts out great with a good win against an opponent they should beat. To start out with the Marching 100, great, great pregame. Band Day, it's always a great time. Best band day ever. But with a new pregame, I like it. Um, I know there might be some differing opinions on that, but I think changing the Indiana fight set from the Indiana to the I and then just splitting it is a lot safer because going from the Indiana, you get a lot of near collisions happening in practice and during games. It's just way too dangerous sometimes, especially when you're going as fast as they are at the end of fight. And I like the new arrangement of back home again. Um, I think Seven Nation should not be the song that replaced Alma Mater there. At Samplegates, I think it should have been like the second half of Slither. But that's just my opinion personally. Um, I did like going into the IU, and I like the arrangement of national emblem going into the state of Indiana. I do like that too. Overall, I think it looks really good. There's obviously going to be kinks need to work out as the first game of the season for everyone. But I think that's going to look really good, and I can't wait for next week's show, Hoist the Colors. But now, going on to the game, to start with IU, passing attack wasn't. We'll talk about that later. We'll go to like what I think was good and what was bad overall. But statistically, Curtis Rourke, 15 to 24, 180 yards and a touchdown. Um, I think he played solid. It's his first game in a Power Five school, Power Four school, and I think with what he had around him, I think he did well. He distributed the ball well. I think it'll get better over the next few games, but Rourke did well as in his first start as the Indiana quarterback. But but to go on the receiving real quick, the guys he threw it to, we had seven different players with at least one reception, and of the of the of the players that got receptions, Omar Cooper had three receptions for 45 yards, leading the team. Miles Price, 4 for 29. Zach Horton, 3 for 36 and one touchdown to start out the game. And then Miles Cross only had one reception for 30 yards, which was just an amazing one-hander on like third and 19, I think it was. Just laying it out there, one-handed, just Rourke with being able to get out of the pocket, evade the sacks, and I'll talk about that later. But Rourke did a good job evading rushers whenever they got to him. Um, but the passing game wasn't really the main aspect of it. It was really the running attack. Got Tyson Lawton, 16 attempts, 75 yards, and two touchdowns. Just under 5 yards per carry, 4.7. Elijah Green, five rushes, 82 yards and a touchdown, which he had a 51-yard touchdown to end the game. He came in at the last couple of drives. And then Justice Ellison, 10 rushes for 68 yards. That just under seven yards a carry. Um, this running attack is scary. I like it. You got four good running backs. Um, Kalen Black only got one rush, but he'll probably get involved later in the season too. Got four guys that can just go really run, be a power back, receiving backs. Like they're just gonna. It's. I like this running attack, and I really think this running back room might honestly be better than receiver room, which is something I would not have said a few months ago. Moving on to defense. Defense was the main story of this game, even more so than running backs. Got Aiden Fisher leading the way with about 12, 11, 12 tackles, two for loss, and a sack. Jalen Walker, who looked like he was everywhere, eight tackles. D'Angelo Pond, six tackles and a pass breakup. And then Amari Farrell with his first interception of his career at about 20-yard return near the end of the game on Keon Jenkins. I think that, well, I'll talk about it later. The front six of this, front six, front seven, if you had the rover, it's scary. This is a nasty group and I love it. Going over to FIU, Keon Jenkins, 18 for 27, 114 yards, touchdown and interception. Keyshawn Owens, six rushing attempts for 36 yards. Receiving wise, Dean Patterson led the way with five receptions, 28 yards. And one of the members of the all name team, Rocky Beers, four receptions, 18 yards, and a touchdown. Sadly, he had to leave the game after that touchdown. It was experiencing, I think it was hamstring, pulled a hamstring or something. Defensively, for the Panthers, it was JoJo Evans leading the way with 11 tackles. And then Dwight Nuno, seven tackles, two for loss, and a sack. Looking at team stats, Indiana, just a team comparison, 65 plays compared to the 59 plays from Florida International. Indiana had 414 total yards, 180 passing, and 234 rushing. They had 25 pass attempts, 40 rush attempts. The lone pass attempt outside of Rourke it looked like he was going to be good. It was a Tyson Lawton halfback pass to Omar Cooper. He was wide open. If Tyson sets his feet, that's probably a touchdown. But he does it on the run. He doesn't get enough in it. It's just short. That could have been really well. But 180 passing yards, 234 rushing yards for the Hoosiers, which is the most since Michigan State in 2022 when we only ran the ball, which is a good sign, I think. I think it's a really good sign. 257 yards was that MSU day. If you haven't seen that, look it up. It's nuts. Third down efficiency for Indiana. They were 4 of 10, so about 40%, kind of where you want to be. Fourth down efficiency, they went for it twice and got picked up one for about 50%. They had 23 first downs and then penalties, 9 for 80. I'm going to talk about this later. That is the big issue that I noticed. It's got to get better. I think it will, but I'll look on it later. For Florida International, of their 59 plays, they got 182 total yards, 129 passing and 29 attempts, 53 rushing yards and 30 attempts. Defense played great. And also back to you real quick. 25 passing attempts and then 40 rushing attempts for the Hoosiers. They decided to be conservative, run the ball a lot. You just did what you needed to win there. Third down efficiency for Florida International, 4 of 13, 30.7%. Fourth down efficiency, 1 of 4, 25%. And this is a group that last year was second worst in all of football, in all of college football in third down efficiency. So it's about where they are, where he kind of wanted them to be defensively. 13 first downs and 3 of 25, three penalties for 25 yards. Um, and this was just your standard Power Five, just dominates a group of five opponent, and we move on with our day. This is just standard business. Do what you need to do to win. And nothing too flashy. 40 rushing attempts, 234 yards. That's about nearly 6 yards per attempt, which stuff I like to see. And granted, it's not going to be this way the entire season. This is not a good program at this point in time, but getting the win here is big, just in general. Looking at I call it pros and cons, but the stuff that's positive, obviously the running game, just getting nearly 6 yards of carry. I mean you could take that. You'll take that. Like if you're getting 6 yards of carry, you're not going to pass the ball that much. It just is what it is. We've got four running backs that can just go. You do running back by committee. There's not anyone that's going to be super flashy, but it looks like Tyson Lawton is going to be the main starter. He played great, and he's familiar with the system. But Justice Ellison looked good, and these guys are just tricky. Like Miles Price, he had a really good game. Even though I didn't mention him, he had a good game. I think it was 4 for 25, 4 receptions, 25 yards, and then a running back reverse that went for 12 yards. He's going to be someone that's going to be. I think he's going to get a punt return touchdown this year. He looks like he can get loose very, very easily, and he can make guys miss so easily. It's ridiculous. Run blocking, I put that as a major pro. Not many tackles for losses on running game on rushes. I think if I remember correctly, um, this O line had its ups and downs, and I'll go more into that a little bit later. But I think if I remember correctly, they only gave up only a couple tackles for loss. Let me just look here. Only 3 tackles for loss, and 2 of them were sacks. So, I mean, you'll take that. Um, but the being able to break a lot of tackles was a big part of this offense yesterday. I think this offense is going to be there's going to be a lot of yards after catch that's going to be going to be added there. And even Elijah Surratt, he's the headliner of this group, and he only got 2 receptions. Like, um, that just shows like it's going to be a by committee system. We're not going to have a headliner, but we're just going to pick your poison. And speaking of picking that poison, that front six is oh my God, that defense is good. On that front six, maybe if you count seven. I personally count as a front six because I think it's a 4-2-5 system with the rover there to interchange. But if you put Amari Farrell, the rover, in that front seven, that's basically all your stats, all your defensive major statistics. Because you got Fisher with one of the sacks, Marcus Burris with a sack. Um, they had 4 sacks on today. Blenell Carr and Andrew Turvey. Andrew Turvey, walk on for Carmel, Indiana. Shout out Christian Peasley again. But uh, but he had a good game, getting his first career sack. Blenell Carr in that it's not the bull, but it's a weird it's a weird name. I can't remember what it's called. Um, someone's got to let me know to make sure. But in that like D line linebacker position where they get interchanged there. But Aiden Fisher with 12 tackles, um, tackles for loss. There were 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss for this team. And if you put Amari Farrell in that front seven, that's the interception too. It was a like 4th and 13 for Farrell for that defense. And Jenkins threw it a little bit behind the receiver. Receiver could get his hands on it, but it was tipped. It was gotten out of his hands and right into Farrell's arms there near the end of the game. But at the beginning of the game, go back to the beginning real quick. Aiden Fisher in his only sack. There was obviously a sack. I saw Mikael Kamara just Aaron Donald his way through a double team. So like I call it the 2-4-6-8 group. Jalen Walker, Aiden Fisher, Mikael Kamara, and CJ West in that front six. Those 4 are going to be the stars on that defense. I think play selection and play design for Mike Shanahan in that offense was really, really good. Um, there's a couple of tricks. They showed their hand a little bit with their trick plays, getting that running back pass and that wide receiver reverse out there. But they showed uh, just a lot of good stuff with what they're able to throw out there, and they could do a lot. And if McCullough could come back, I'll talk about that later. But if McCauley could go back and be good there, I think we'll be seeing a wide receiver pass again this year. And then last but not least for the pros, Rourke, um, he may be more of a game manager, but he has some, he's a white guy, so I'm going to say he's sneaky athletic, as they all say. Like you don't expect him to get what he can on the ground, and there were a lot of times where defense got a pressure in there. That D line for Florida National got pressured in there, and he broke like 4 or 5 sacks on the day yesterday, and able to at least get something out of it. I think it like the play before the Miles Cross 30-yard catch. Um, Warwick gets it, drops the ball a little bit to avoid the sack, picks it up, goes out and throws it away, which leads to that, which is also coming from a broken play, that Miles Cross catch. It's probably going to be on the Sports Center top 10 because that was a really, really good catch. But to go into cons, speaking of Warwick's sack prevention, pass protection was not great today. Run blocking was good, but the pass protection just wasn't there today. And I get it with the injury to I think it was Nick Kidwell on on that offensive line. They had to quickly insert a new guy in there, but um, that's got to be better. Warwick has got to have a little bit more time to throw the ball um, for these receivers to get open, to give them time to get open, because Michigan's defense is going to eat them alive if they play like that again. Um, Penalties again on the offensive line. 9 penalties on the team, 8 on offense. There was I think, a legal formation, and then I think the rest were either holding or blocks in the back during a punt return. Like it was not pretty. Um, gotta be able to keep your man in front of you without holding. You gotta flat out. Second half offense was not great. We scored 14 in the first quarter, 17 the rest of the game. Not great, but I think it was a lot of conservative play calling. But I doubt Signetti was happy at all. He didn't look happy. Um, Pass defense. Um, Obviously that front six is really good. That back four, that with obviously D'Angelo Pons is going to be great, but Jameer Johnson, Sanguinetti, Asbury, that back four, those three guys have got to get got to be less soft coverage and like try to because there's a lot of times where Florida National get a run for like 2 yards, immediately pick it up in the second half. It wasn't great. Um, and then to probably the more so just injury wise, Donovan McCauley came out with a concussion, and this is good time to wide receiver depth because we did not have EJ Williams either. So I think it's concerning. There's also obviously the DB room has been dealing with injuries. Philistines out for the year, and then we were missing also JoJo Johnson. I think would be a good help, but that secondary was going to be a weakness, but they got to improve more. And obviously, 129 yards on 29 attempts is good, but it just seemed like especially in that second half, there were a lot of easy completions being made. Um, and then last but not least, this has been a pet peeve of mine since I was in the band, and I don't know how you fix it. I don't know. Making sure their pass outs are gone because I heard they were back this year. They cut him, then they brought him back. I don't know, but students have got to stay and watch the product because it affects the team. It really affects the team because the team sees all the students. They like, what are we doing here? What are we doing wrong? And morale gets shot down because students aren't there. And Aiden Fisher talked about it. Students have more power than they know. Signetti spoke on it a little bit, but hopefully, and like the program's been trying to do well this year. You got like local restaurants that everyone loves, Buffalo Louie, Social Cantina, Avers. You got Yogi's there, like to add to the concession stand so that people could stay. I've heard ideas float around that maybe if students scan their tickets, their student ID and out, how long they're there, like they get put in the system and like they get better basketball tickets. That might work, but I feel like we shouldn't need to dangle IU basketball to get students to stay. That's just and it is just so say the and we have a great tailgating culture, which is nice. And this is one of the problems that come with it, is that students would rather tailgate than watch the game. But before we end today, just some scores around the Big Ten. We had Rutgers beating Howard 44 to 7. North Carolina at this point in time, we got one more game left. North Carolina beating Minnesota 19 to 17. Minnesota's the only loss so far in the Big Ten. Illinois beating Eastern Illinois 45 nothing. Michigan State beating Florida Atlantic 16 to 10. Wisconsin beating Western Michigan 28-14. Ohio State beating Akron 52 to 6. Oregon beating Idaho 24-14. Penn State beating West Virginia 32-17. Michigan beating Fresno State 30 to 10. Iowa beating Illinois State 40 to 0. Maryland beating UConn 50 to 7. Purdue beating Indiana State 49 nothing. Nebraska beating UTEP, University of Texas El Paso 40 to 7. Northwestern beating Miami of Ohio 13 to 7. UCLA beating Hawaii 16 to 13. Washington beating Weber State 35-3. And then tonight, USC is playing LSU, which that's going to be an interesting game. But that's going to be all for today. I'll be back later on this week to discuss IU's Week 2 matchup against the Western Illinois Leatherbacks. So, hope you guys have a good day. And also in the future, there might be some episodes about just other things regarding football and the Big Ten and all that stuff. So, hope you have a good day. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, follow, tell all your friends about it. It'd be greatly appreciated. And then, well, one last thing before I go. Uh, I would like to thank Russell P. Harker. I got to make sure I get the YouTube name right because this guy is the way I was able to find the pregame and the band day. Uh, Russell P. Harker on YouTube. He has all of the uh, pregame halftime shows on YouTube. Go check them out. That was the way I was able to watch both pregame and halftime. Both sounded great. So, hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you guys in the next one.